hair is an extension of your body. So like, you are good the way you are. Curl Power Salon is a place for people with naturally textured hair. What we really want to offer is a space that listens to people's stories about their hair, because hair is so much more than just a cut. It has to do with our identity and how we feel about ourselves. Unfortunately, people with curly hair have often been told that their hair is too much or ugly or unmanageable. We do a lot of education for children and for families on how to best take care of children's hair, and teaching positive language for how to talk about curly hair. We have Curl Camp, which is when kids and their caregivers come in together, and we do a workshop where the parents actually learn how to take care of the kids' hair. About 65 or 70% of people have textured hair of some kind, wavy, curly, super curly, coily. And I think that's a higher number than people, even curly people, realize. So like, you're in the majority, you curly-haired people. It's time to start being able to care for ourselves naturally, so that we don't have to spend a lot of energy wishing we were something else. My hope for someone coming into Curl Power Salon is that they leave with confidence, that they leave feeling like they've been listened to. We want people to feel fully armed with the information and confidence that they can manage any curly situation.
So there are 2 Curl Power salon locations in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, I have a friend that goes to one of them. She absolutely loves it. And growing up, Mama Lou's got, ringlet hair, so
Yep.
I got my mom's curly hair. And I always wanted straight hair, but it's nice to see people embracing their natural curls.
That's right. You gotta be happy with what you
I
got.
haven't on air yet. It's
No?
it gets a little frizzy. I'll have to go check it out.
All right.
Have them help me out.
Maybe Friday. Frizz it up.
Frizzy Friday.
Spend